Hello and welcome to the Yes to Birth experience. I am Rachel Yellen and I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm super happy to welcome Becky Alford, who is the lead educator and curriculum designer and mentor for Doula Trainings International. Doula Trainings International is a professional membership and educational body certifying birth professionals all over the world, and they are united as birth advocates. Doula Trainings International, DTI, focuses on reproductive justice in an effort to work towards closing the gap in maternal and infant disparities. Becky, welcome. I am so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Rachel. So good to be here. That was a great introduction.
Thank you. So right off the cuff, I want to have you tell us, what does a birth doula do, and how is a birth doula different from all of the other people in the birthing room?
I think a doula is one of the most unique and interesting roles you can have in this world. A doula is heart work. A doula is someone who is 100% there for you and for your support. There's not many people or roles in the world that are just about you. So the other people in the room, they have their different roles. They're there for your medical safety. They're there to let you know all of your options and help you figure out what the risks and benefits are for each of those. The doula is then able to jump in and help you figure that out and help you make the best choice for you. The doula is also not someone who's there as a friend, a loved one, a partner, someone who's much more intimately involved in birth and sometimes can bring in a different type of energy because they're in love with this person, or, this is their baby, having a baby in front of them. And so, they really want what's best, but sometimes need a little help getting their energy directed in the best way possible. So the doula is the person who kind of brings it all together in the room, who can help you figure out what's going on medically and explain it to you in, terms that make sense to you in the moment so that you can figure out what your best birth is. The doula also is there to help you prenatally and postpartum. So the doula helps you figure out ahead of time what your best birth could look like, what you might want to do if plans start to shift and things change in the moment, and help you come up with a plan for what life with this baby is going to be like, what kind of supports you're going to have around you, what kind of parent you want to be. We provide all that kind of education and support and evidence to help you make all those decisions. But really what I said in the beginning is, I think, the simple answer. It's just heart work. It's just being there for someone. It's loving them. It's listening to them. It's not talking over them. It's really genuinely just wanting to learn who they are and what their needs are.
I love that. I totally love that. You're reminding me of, I was a professional doula for almost 10 years, and you're reminding me really of that piece about the heart work and how important that is. And you're also bringing up something that's so important, which is about why it's essential to have a professional doula. It's great that, yes, your mother wants to come, the grandmother, or your friend wants to come, but there's so much history in those relationships, and there is a level of commitment. I remember some of the most challenging births that I ever attended were those of my friends, because I knew so much about them and I was so invested in the long-term relationship with those friends. And it's different with a professional doula. So you're reminding me of that and the importance of that. And so I want to just move into the next question, which is, what are some things that doulas want their clients to know? Now, what are some things that doulas want their clients to know?
Yeah, and I'd love to just go back to the point you just said before answering that, which is one of the greatest things a doula can do is find the best ways for all of those loved ones to support the client in the way that feels best for them. It's my bird clock. We like birds here. Almost done. There it is. So all those people in the room that are there both for themselves, they want to have a great experience of this birth. Maybe it's the new parent, maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's a friend. We can help them be the most helpful they can be to the birthing person, and also in terms of the birthing person, we're going to be able to direct those energies in the best way possible so that they're only feeling the love and the support, and they're not feeling any of that nervous energy or any histories or anything that, you know, came along with people into the room. So I feel like doulas are really good at creating this kind of seamless space of just love and support with everybody who's there in the room.
Oh my God. Yes, totally and completely. It just, you know, like makes me well up with tears, because that's really what it's all about, is that there isn't a right or wrong way to have a baby. It's about, you know, right, accessing yourself and doing it in a way for the birthing person that really works for them. And yes, the job of the doula is to hold that space, to really just hold that space, to honor that person, and to know that, like, whatever they're doing a good job. I love it. Thank you for pointing that out.
And in terms of what doulas want you to know about your birth experience, what doulas think about their clients, I think the most important thing is we just want you to know that you're in the driver's seat. This is your call. Everything that happens is something that you should be aware of, informed of, and choosing. We want you to know that things can change in the moment, that you might be facing a decision or something happening that wasn't something you anticipated. But even in that moment, this is about you. This is about how you want to respond to change. And there's not always another person in the room that's necessarily thinking that about the client. And so part of our advocacy as doulas is for your autonomy, for you to feel as though you are in the driver's seat. You're making these decisions. When I think about, you know, my clients and what I want for them, of course, I think I want a healthy birthing person. I think I want a healthy baby. I want a birthing person who had autonomy, choice, was that key decision maker in the room. I want them to feel that they were just unquestionably supported at every step of the way. And I think that leads to them going into parenting this baby feeling confident, feeling capable, feeling like they're surrounded by a community of support. I sometimes want, when I think about what I want people to know as clients about what their doula thinks about them, you know, I do think about those moments when plans change and things shift in the room, because birth can be humbling. We can be confronted with things that just were not in our minds about what to expect in this birth. It can feel different than we expected. Something about the baby can need a little extra help. Something about our bodies might need a little extra help. And that doesn't mean all is lost. I think one of the most amazing things doulas can do is just refocus us in that moment. Just breathe, just slow down, you know, take in these changes, gather information, make decisions, refocus our goals. Doulas are really good at slowing down the moment so that you can feel more deliberate and not feel as though things are, you know, spiraling out of control for you, but actually just slowing it down, calming things down, so that you're able to make the best decision for you. Babies are their own people. They have their own needs. Birth is humbling and parent is humbling. So part of it is just creating that openness in ourselves to accept what our babies need at any given moment. And I think doulas can really help us do that. I think I mentioned before, you know, doulas want you to know that birth is really important to plan for, but postpartum and parenting is even more important to plan for. I want to make sure that you're not reading 10 parenting books and 0 books about, you know, lactation, if that's something that you're going to do, or newborn care, sleep schedules, things like that, anything that kind of is what you're going for as a parent and what your parenting philosophy is. I want to make sure as a doula that you have a community of support around you, that you have a plan for you, for self-care for you. I want to know going into this birth that you're not under the assumption that your job is going to be taking care of this baby and taking care of yourself and taking care of the whole household and everything else. You are the one that needs some self-care and slowing down in that moment. And this is the time to accept that help. And that's something that not everybody is used to or comfortable doing, knowing that we need to rely on others and bring people in to care for us at those times. And just in general, your doula thinks you're amazing. That's what we want our clients to know. We think you're beautiful when you're giving birth. We think you're spectacular. We think that you're a warrior. There is nothing that can happen in a birth that I'm present at that doesn't make me proud of the person sitting in front of me, that doesn't make me think that they're just an incredible wealth of love and strength and opening. We see that. We think you're amazing. And I think, doulas should just keep telling you that during the whole labor and after. We're like, wow, look what you did.
And I wonder if you can share with us, how DTI doulas are trained. What are the offerings, and what do you guys do? How do you get to be a doula?
Our trainings are either in person or online, and both of those contain the exact same content. And as you said, the heart of our content is really that slow doula method. So while our trainings do include all of the business information that you need to start your practice, include all the childbirth education and lactation information that you need to know as background, really for us, the key is that slow doula method, which is a way that we teach of, as I said before, slowing down the moment, recentering ourselves, reading the room, figuring out what's going on, looking around at all the key players in the room, creating relationships with all the key players in the room from the very beginning, creating that positive, that we're both professionals here and we both have our own unique things to share in this, and we're working together. We're your birth team. And then it also has to do with slow doula method, has to do with just general birth work advocacy. What am I doing in my community, and what am I doing in the world to increase birth options, to reduce maternal mortality disparities in my community? It just has to do with seeing myself as not just this individual doula with an individual client, but as a change maker, as someone who can do bigger things on a broader scale and has lots of ideas for that.
The slow doula method. I love that. Just hearing the words helps everything to slow down. So how does DTI training differ from other doula trainings that you know of?
I think there's a few key ways. One of them is just that, we're not afraid of that word advocate. We do see advocacy as one of the key parts of being a doula. And that doesn't mean rushing into a room and speaking over people. And, this isn't ego work. This isn't about us coming in and making something ours. Advocacy can be about, that individual client and making sure they're heard. Or it can be on that larger scale that I was speaking about, increasing choices for birthing people. DTI is also unique in that we have a firm commitment for being inclusive, for, as I was speaking about before, for reducing the maternal mortality disparities. And one of the ways we do that is by offering scholarships to all of our in-person trainings, and now some of our online trainings, scholarships for trans birth workers, for birth workers of color. Because I really do feel like the community of doulas needs to reflect the community of people that they're serving. Doulas cannot all look the same, come from the same demographic, and be effective change makers for a birthing population that is much more diverse than that. The other thing I think is a big difference with DTI is our community. We have such an incredible community of birth workers, and we come together and support each other in the most positive, effective way I've ever seen in the birth world. There's no violence between us. There's no horizontal violence. It is all us believing that we are building each other up. We don't see other doulas and birth workers in the world and our communities as competition. We see them as other people to lift all boats, and that the more great work we do separately, the more great work we do together is going to keep helping birthing people have more choices. Also, our community offers this unique membership model. So you train through DTI and you're certified for life after your certification process. You never again have to submit things after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to maintain your certification. Because we believe in the autonomy of the doula. We believe that the doula will seek professional development if we provide it, and doesn't need to be constantly retested on that or prove to us that they're meeting a certain standard. So we offer through our membership model continuous updated professional development in our community that they're able to just keep coming back to and learning more and more each year.
So awesome. And I know that one of the things that DTI provides is a conference, the Born Into This conference. Can you tell us some about that?
The Born Into This conference had its first conference this year in 2018, July in Austin, Texas, and it was amazing.
I was there. I totally loved it, and I learned so much. It was incredible.
Every part of it just blew my mind. I had great expectations for what it would be, and it went so far beyond that. So DTI's goal was really to create conversations with that conference, not to just have speakers speaking to people and breakout sessions and kind of one-way flow of information. The point was to have these deep conversations to bring people in the room together that might not always have a chance to kind of have that cross connection there. And it was wildly successful. It's plans to be repeated every year, 2019 Austin, Texas also, and every year following.
Awesome. So one of the things that I really wanted to ask you about is really about the most common issues that arise for people when they're in labor. And what, from the perspective of the doula, from the perspective of the birthing person, what are some of the most common issues arise, and how are DTI doulas trained to deal with those issues?
Absolutely. Sometimes when you enter into a birth situation where there's, let's say, a practice of doctors or providers who may not be someone you know, that's going to be a time that the doula is going to need to think on their feet and create this atmosphere, again, of mutual respect. So you could see someone coming in the room who has never met your client before, who is just kind of coming in quickly, taking charge, wanting to, say, start a vaginal exam or something, pretty intrusive like that, without that moment of introduction or face-to-face connection. And that's just such a great time for doulas to practice the slow doula method, to slow down the moment in a effective way, to introduce ourselves to this care provider as part of the birth team. We've been setting that stage all along with everybody who comes in the room, with reflecting back what our clients are saying, giving them the space to open up and make their needs known in the moment. That's such a common thing we see as doulas, people coming in the room who haven't yet introduced themselves to the client or really formed a relationship. So I wouldn't say that we're a buffer, but we are someone who creates a safe environment for our clients in the room, so that anybody who comes in might even just know automatically, oh, I get the vibe going on here. They might see, whatever this client wants, the twinkle lights or the stillness or the, little bit of music or dimmed lights. We can create this kind of cozy atmosphere for our clients. And then if someone comes in and we're in the middle of something and they're kind of pushing their energy in, we can just take a moment silently and let them know we'll be right with you. But we're doing some big things right now.
Okay, so we're going to do like a little role playing here. So let's say that you are the doula and I am the care provider, and I come in and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to do a vaginal exam and see how you're progressing. And you see like your client, Sally, is in the bed and she's like looking, very like, what the hell, so what would you say or do in that moment?
So I'm going to assume that Sally's in the middle of a contraction, because that's almost always how it happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is just keep my focus on Sally. We're just going to keep our eye contact going. And I'm going to do that pause 1 minute to the provider while I'm still intensely focusing on Sally and saying, wow, you're really doing this. Look at this. And not necessarily that I'm avoiding that right then, but I'm just saying, like, setting the stage that we're in the middle of something here right now. We're doing hard work right now. And then at the moment, oh, it's so nice to meet you. We've been working really hard. Sally is such an amazing woman. You are going to be so excited to work with her today. Give me a minute. Okay. Sally's back. We're in the contraction. Okay. Sally, did you have a chance to meet Dr. So-and-so yet? Come on over. So as the doula, I might provide that little bit of moment of introducing them, showing myself as a professional and as someone who, can be consulted in the room right now, but also just giving that little bit of space, just creating a little bit of a moment there so that there doesn't have to be an immediate response to the question that just came. Because most likely the provider could wait another minute to have that little bit of connection between the two of them before asking that question.
So in line with, that question about, what are some of the most common problems that arise? One of the things that DTI is very committed to is social justice. DTI spends a lot of time training their doulas on how to respond to situations where people are being treated poorly or differently based on their ethnicity or their sexual identity or any other factor for that matter. And I wonder how DTI doulas are trained to work in these situations where something's going on, where there's some kind of disparity. And what just along those lines, if you could speak to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think one of our key roles in that moment is reinforcing the humanity of the person who's in front of us at that moment. Sometimes what's happening is the provider coming in, seeing them as a number, seeing them as you said, a member of any of the groups that they may be a part of, instead of seeing them as an individual sitting in front of them. So one of the things we do is keep using the client's name, keep bringing everything back in the conversation to their name, their wants, their humanity, using their name in a way to say, I'm not sure that Sally understood, exactly what it means to make that choice right now. Would you mind explaining a little bit more what the risks and benefits are for each of those choices? Again, slowing down the moment and bringing it back to our client. Sometimes there are moments that are a lot more intense than that. Sometimes there are moments that it's not a matter of just using their name and re-explaining things or asking for more information. Sometimes we need to be more fierce advocates in the moment. Sometimes we need to repeat what they're saying in a different voice and call attention to the fact that what they're saying is being ignored. So Sally, you're not consenting to this right now. Sally, you're saying no. You're saying you don't want this right now. This is not okay with you. Because there's other people in the room too. And so maybe the person that is actually the one, wanting to do that procedure or something like that, might be influenced by other people in the room who are starting to question what's going on. So making things blatant sometimes is the way we move forward in that situation. However, a lot depends on this client and what they want in the moment. So this might be a client who's sitting in front of you who doesn't want all that attention drawn to them in the moment and just wants your support and just wants you to be focused on them and what's going on and explaining what's going on and reassuring them in the moment. So I think it can look different in a lot of different situations. One thing I mentioned before was our trans scholarships and birth worker of color scholarships, because we really feel like in many situations, the most effective advocate could be someone who is from your community, who understands exactly what you're going through, instead of me as a white doula trying to explain racism to another, a white doctor, or trying to understand this whole lived experience of an entire life that's culminating in this moment. Someone from your community could be a much more effective advocate in that moment, which is why I feel that as doulas, as white doulas, we need to give back to the community of doulas of color. We need to make a financial investment in their future. We need to promote their programs because they know the needs of the people that they're working with better than I do.
This is so important. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. And to all the yes to birthers out there, I would love it if you would go to the doulatrainingsinternational.com. It's wearedti.com and look for opportunities to donate to their scholarship fund. I think, Becky, is there a place for people to donate there?
I believe there is a place on the website, yes, for donations to the scholarship fund.
And something else that I really want to suggest is for those of you that teach classes, those of you who are teaching childbirth education classes, or you have other offerings, what you can do is on your registration page for your clients, you can add a box that says, I'd like to contribute, $25 or $50 extra to support a doula of color, or some to support a scholarship fund, basically. So I highly recommend doing that, adding scholarships to your fees, so that people who can't afford to become a doula or an educator have the opportunity to do so. And Becky, the theme, of course, of our show is to have a healthier, less painful, empowering, satisfying pregnancy and birth. Um, and I wonder if you can tell people how hiring a doula might contribute to having that healthier, less painful, empowering, satisfying pregnancy and birth.
Absolutely. One thing that hiring a doula can do, but I think also people can work this out through themselves, is figuring out what works for them in other moments of their life that they needed a bit extra help. So not everything is going to work for every birthing person. That's really key in my trainings and in my work as a doula, is figuring out this birthing person, helping them understand in their life, what are the things that comfort them when their mind starts to race? What are the things that gets them back to a calm, centered place? When we start to figure out and look back through their lives, and a pregnant person can certainly do this exercise themselves and think back, what are the physical things in my life that that are my go-tos for, say, self-care, or when I'm having a stressful week? What are the mental things that I do? What are the things I say to myself? Because those things we can build on, we can amplify. If you're a person who repeats something in your head when you're in the midst of a moment that's challenging for you, then you're someone who's going to work on mantras for your birth, and maybe creating some birth art for you to hang around the space to recenter you. If you're someone who likes those kind of repetitive physical things, like getting your hair brushed or something like that, then that's something that you're going to want to think about, all the different ways that your support people can give you that kind of comforting touch. So I think what makes a birth empowering to any individual is going to vary so much based on what comforts them, based on what their definition is of feeling strong in themselves. So the one piece of advice I always like to give is just look deeper in yourself. Who are you and what comforts you? What do you go to in your challenging moments?
Awesome. So now you are a mom to 3 kids, and there were, different versions of yourself when you were giving birth. So if you could go back in time and give advice to those younger versions of you who are birthing, knowing what you know now, what would you say?
Absolutely. I had 3 very varied birth experiences 9 years ago, 6 years ago, and almost 2 years ago. 2 home birth attempts that ended in transfers to cesareans, and then my 3rd baby was a VBAC after 2 cesareans. In all of those situations, I just want my...
So wait. I have to interrupt for a second. So I just want to make sure I get this straight. So you planned a home birth, 2 home births that ended up in the hospital with a C-section. And then you planned a hospital birth, and you ended up having a vaginal birth in the hospital unmedicated, right?
Yes. And the reason I planned that in the hospital this time was just wanting to know I was in the place I was going to give birth. At that point, I thought my chances of cesarean were high based on the reasons of my past 2 cesareans, but I was just open to whatever was going to happen. And that openness was exactly what my answer was going to be. It was so successful in my 3rd birth, not that it led to a different outcome necessarily, but just that I felt more at peace with wherever my birth was going to take me. So I would go back to myself 9 years ago, who at that point had been a doula for 10 years and had had a lot of birth experience, and definitely had my own birth philosophies and where I thought I wanted my birth to go. And I just wish I would have been a little more open to understanding that birth can change you. Birth can take you places you didn't think it was going to, and that you're going to be okay. And even if you have complicated feelings about that birth after the fact, you will be okay. You've got this amazing baby to love, and you're going to heal over time. After my 3rd birth, and it was just this big celebration, and oh my goodness, a baby can come out that way of my body. I never expected that. So again, it was just that openness of being open to something completely new happening.
Oh my God, Becky, I'm having this total experience. First of all, that's amazing. And I'm having this total experience of like listening to everything you say and thinking, oh, I want Becky to be my doula if I were having a child. And so I'm guessing that some of the other people listening are thinking the same thing. So can you tell us where people can find you and where people can find a doula, how people can find a doula in general?
Absolutely, yeah. I was taking many clients when I lived in New York City, and at that point, my website was downtowndoulanyc.com. It's still up. I haven't taken it down yet. I moved to Vermont about a year and a half ago. I'm not currently taking private clients right now while I'm focusing on mentorships and trainings. But if you go to the DTI website, wearedti.com, there's a Find a Doula locator there, and I can guarantee everybody on that list has been thoroughly trained, is a fantastic doula. I feel like I personally know so many of them because we're such a close-knit community. You will find a great doula in that doula locator, I guarantee it.
That's so awesome. So super fun. Up here, what's the takeaway? What do you want the Yes to Birthers to really walk away with in terms of doulas and what doulas do and what matters?
Sure. I think it comes back to thinking about doula work and doulas being heart workers. So I just encourage people to think about that in all areas of their life. People going through anything in their life that's a bit more challenging can always use someone who is genuinely listening to them, who genuinely wants to support them and love them through it. And any part of your life can be made less lonely and less challenging if you have someone like that listening to you, someone who doesn't have an agenda, someone who just wants what's best for you. So I like to think of doula work as much broader than just birth work and reproductive work, but just how are we interacting with people on earth? What kind of people do we want to be? How do we want others to treat us? And I think you can really tell when someone is just genuinely there for you and wants what's best for you. And so I encourage people to think about this in a much broader way.
Perfect. Totally perfect. Thank you for that. And you're just reminding us of the depth of importance of that, everything that, DTI stands for, I say like in my classes, I teach birth techniques, but really they're life techniques. And that's what you're pointing to. You're pointing to, what matters, that we are making change in the world, and we have to be the change that we long to see. So I am so deeply grateful for your generosity and for the sharing and everything that you are doing and that DTI is doing. Just so much gratitude to you and all the work that DTI is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I really look forward to listening to all of your other videos and hearing what everybody else has to say as well. You have a great group.
I do. Thank you so much. And all of you Yes to Birthers, thank you so much for tuning in to Becky Alford of Doula Trainings International. I really want to encourage you to go to the wearedti.com website and check out all of their offerings. They've given us such generous discounts on their online doula certification program and on their childbirth educator training program. And there's a wealth of information there. So I hope you'll go check that out and see what you can do to make the doula world a better place, basically. And of course, if you have questions about becoming a doula, please, you can contact Becky and she'll explain how to get you on the track to being a really successful doula. There are many, many out there. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Of course, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and we'll see you soon. Bye. I am so happy that you're a part of the Yes to Birth movement. Please visit yestobirth.com to learn more about my pregnancy, birth, and beyond audio relaxation program, my childbirth education and techniques programs, and my private counseling and coaching. Yes to Birth. I'm Rachel Yellen. Bye.